Okay, so let's go over our first example. In this case, you can see in my schematic that I'm going to use a function generator to control the voltage output between 0 and 5 volts to my channel A0. And I'm going to use some LEDs to turn on these LEDs to represent the voltage level that it's been read by the Arduino. So let's start from reading that voltage. You can see in my hardware that I'm using my LEDs with no resistor. That's because, as I mentioned before, some blue LEDs and white LEDs can be used without resistors. But if you are using red, yellow, or green, it's highly recommended to use resistors to limit the current and not burn them. So let's start by defining our pin, which is going to be A0. Now let's do an analog read. My pin, which in this case is A0, and that's going to be returned as an integer, so I need to declare a variable. In my case, I'm just going to call it n, but n it's the name of the variable. It can be number, it can be voltage, it can be whatever you call it, but I decided to call it n. Then let's do a pin mode, let's use the LED at pin number 8. So pin mode 8 as an output. Now, if my N, which represents my voltage level, it's around 1.71, following the example, which is 350. If N is greater than 350, then we're gonna turn on the LED. So digital red 8 as high to turn on my LED. Otherwise, if it's below or equal to 1.71 volts, let's just turn it off. Right, 8 low. Let's load it. I'm gonna put my LEDs on my left and use my power supply. So right now I'm supplying 0 volts. It's not turning on, remember, because it's supposed to turn on above 350, which is 1.71. So let's try 1 volt. It will not turn on because it's still below 1.71. Let's try 1.7. It's still below 1.71. Now let's try 1.8. And it's turning on. My pin 8, it's turning on because I'm over 1.71. If I put 1.5, it will turn off again. But if I try 5, it will turn on because it's over 1.71. So that's what this code here means. Let's rewrite this using my DDRV. If you see, my pin 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, and 8 are part of my B port. So I can rewrite this as, instead of pin mode, we can do the equivalent, which is DDRV equal to bits, right? 0, 0, and then there's going to be 13, 12, 11, 10, 8, and 9. So it's the same thing as writing pin mode 13 output, pin mode 12 output, pin mode 11 output, and all that, but it's in just one line. And instead of turning on these LED, we're gonna use our port B equal to B 0, 0, and then 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Turning on, right? Otherwise, we want to turn it off. So let's just put a 0, and this should have the same result. My voltage level is 5, and as you can see, my LED is turning on. It's not the same intensity, but it's on. Let's make it 0, and it's turning it off. Let's make it 5, and it's turned on. Okay. Let's try to turn on 2. So that's going to be 8 and 9. So right now it's turned off because I have 0 volts. Let's try 5. And as you can see, my blue LED, it's turning on as well. If I make it 0, both of them are going to 0. So now let's try to do a ladder pattern. Let's make when n is greater to 100 to turn on just 1. But if my n it's going over 200, we're gonna turn on both of them. So now we're gonna turn on 100. I'm sorry, pin 8 and pin 9. If it's over 200. So just for you as a reference, 100 is 0.48 and 200 is 0.97 volts. Okay. So 0, let's try 0.5 to turn on 1. That's turning on my white. Now, if I put 1000 millivolts, which is 1 volt, it's turning on my blue and my white. If I do a sinusoidal wave instead of a square wave and I change my frequency to 1 Hertz, we can do a signal or a sine wave that will go to 0 to 1 every second. So let me try that. See how does that look? Let's make this 1 volt. There you go. So as you can see, now it's reaching 0.5 and then 1, and it's going down. So you can see how the white light's turning on all the time, but the blue is sometimes turning on because it's reaching this point. My white LED is not turning off because I'm never turning them off, so we need to turn them off here. Let's start with my port P equal to zeros. So that my 2 lights will be off at the beginning. See? There you go. Now you can see how it's going from 5, then goes to 1 volt, then goes down. We can add more LEDs to see this better. So let's do another if statement. If my n is greater than 400, which is gonna be 1.95 volts. And we're gonna turn on now 8, 9, and 10. Let's try it. Now I need to go to 1 volt, to 2 volts, so that we can turn on the third LED. And we can move on for the other 2. So I'm just gonna copy this line because it's the same thing. $600, $800, and 1000. So 1000 is pretty close to 5 volts. So we need to change the amplitude now. And we need to change our pins. So this is 2 pins, 3. It's gonna be 4, 5, and our 6. So this is 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Oh, I'm missing one. 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this one is 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Let's give it a try. I'm going to 2, so it's just turning on 2, but now we can change our amplitude to 5. And it's doing all of them. There you go. Perfect.